In hip-hop music, you expect this pattern, this formula. So I've tried to put some excitement of a live experience into a DJ performance. Da, 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 da. And we anticipate that thing, but it gives us chills because we're anticipating it. Da, 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 da.
Thanks for joining us on Mobile Music Thursday. I'm Jason Jones, and I'm really excited about our guest that we're going to be having on the show tonight. This particular guest actually was a speaker at the recent Las Vegas DJ show and really wowed a lot of people and created a lot of insight on how we do what we do and what works. And I'm really excited for you to hear what he has to share tonight, especially for those that didn't make it to the conference. You're going to love what you get out of this. His name is Curtis Whipple, and he's been in the business for 35 years. He's been a musician. He's in sound and lighting, and he knows what it is to entertain people. And he always had an interest in psychology. He minored in psychology when he was in college and continued that passion and interest and started applying it to what we do as DJs. You know, asking the questions like, why does music move people the way it does? Why do people get so excited when there's a certain hook on one song, whereas another song that may sound similar doesn't have that effect at all? And so tonight we're going to talk about those very things to give you more insight on where to mix in and out of, what to look for in your music, and what to look for when you're creating an experience on the dance floor. So, out of Phoenix, Arizona, Curtis Whipple, welcome to Mobile Music Thursday.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, it's really exciting. So let's just dive right in to that question, kind of in a broader sense. Just the question of like, why does music move us the way it does? You know, like when I hear a song or a certain rhythm, and I'll like for example, when I hear Hall & Oates and You Make My Dreams Come True, I cannot not do this. I immediately start doing this without even thinking. I ask myself, why am I bobbing my head? Oh, because Hall & Oates is playing. So why does that happen?
Well, there's a number of factors that go into it. Music is one thing that's an art form that's processed over time, as opposed to like a painting. We don't read a painting and say, okay, red, 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 blue, green, 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 green,
Well,
red,
that's
red.
true.
We don't read it. We picture the whole painting at once. 1/50th of a second of exposure, and our brain captures that painting subject to recall indefinitely. Whereas music is expressed over time. Our cerebellum back here helps us walk. We can maintain a gait because our cerebellum processes time.
Sure.
Same thing with music. By the third beat, we've picked up a pattern. We anticipate there's going to be a fourth pulse there somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's very satisfying when it's right on where we thought it was going to be. But it's even more satisfying when the artist surprises us, when they violate what we thought the pattern was going to be. And even more satisfaction than that is over a period of time when we process a groove, when we try to stay in sync with a groove. Very satisfying. It does make us move like that. You can't not move when the artist is doing something lovely that surprises you constantly.
Right. So that's the basics of like what gets us moving. So now, why is it that there are some songs like let's say Yeah by Usher that gets everybody just going, and other songs that have like maybe similar beats or even similar notes, things like that don't quite have the same effect?
Well, there's a number of factors. In my seminar, I talked about the difference between major and minor keys. Most people, it's a major key, major chord rather. Change one note, it's a minor. You don't have to know that it's major or minor. You just know. Most of us know that this major, we perceive it as happy. Minor, we perceive it as sad.
Sure.
And I'm hired to play at happy occasions. I generally choose songs that are in major keys. Something about that song. Got a little bit of an Arabic thing going on with that. That extra high note there. There's just something about major keys that work for people. Certainly that, I don't know, it's just got a good groove to it. Da-da, 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 da-da. I like it.
So that's one factor that goes into it. Are there other psychological factors that go in around there's for years there have been groups. There was the Wrecking Crew, which was the hit factory of the 60s and the 70s, and the companies have been trying to do hit factory kind of things and evaluate what formulas make a hit. And to a certain degree, how much is it to a degree that a song is a certain formula that turns turns somebody on. Like, oh, I like this. This is great. This is a really exciting, widespread popular hit versus, the elements that, what elements need to be there and how much is it just timing, preference?
Well, I hate to bash our industry. I'm not a big fan of the quantized, disposable, formulaic, cleaned up, pitch corrected music.
Okay.
I think the thing that makes some of these artists like the Beatles or Miles Davis or some of these that have endured for 50, 60 years because they don't follow the rules. They surprise us. They don't follow a formula. When you hear, Kesha, Lady Gaga, Pitbull, there is a formula. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's this thing that gives you the chills when you're expecting this thing. Like, You Shook Me All Night Long. And then there's 8 counts between that last guitar strum before the dun, 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 dun. And we anticipate that thing, but it gives us chills because we're anticipating it. Elvis songs, they sort of stop and start again. We expect that. In hip hop music, you expect this pattern, this formula.
Right.
Turn down for what? And we expect that thing. It kind of gives us the chills. The thing that makes music really satisfying is when the artist doesn't do that. When the artist surprises us, like the song Yesterday from the Beatles. There are 7 patterns of 4 in the musical phrase there. You expect 8. Most music, it does 8, but the Beatles, they did 7, and then they started the pattern again. It surprises us. It's when you violate the formula. Nothing wrong with the formula, but boy, when you surprise us, because most of the music is the formula, but when the artist surprises us by doing something different, boy, that's great satisfaction for us. Our whole brain lights up.
That creates the excitement. So, well, what about groups like I'll use like One Republic, for example. So, I really like what One Republic does in, I don't know if they would be considered electronic or hip hop or somewhere kind of in between, but they do all kinds of different variations throughout their songs. It's kind of like their thing. And so it seems to me that when I'm like, ooh, when I have that experience that you're describing, I'm getting that kind of that chill, that reaction, that like, oh, this is fun. Oh, this went off to another direction. Even if I've heard the song before, I'm like, oh, here we go again, and I'm kind of surprised again. But yet at the same time, like when I play these at One Republic at dances, I don't get the same like response, like audience response, like, hey, we want to get on dance to this stuff for those reasons. And I know nothing is like 100%, but why would you say that might be? Or am I looking at the wrong thing?
I think there's a number of factors going into what you just asked. I'm a fan of Kraftwerk. They're one of the great. I contend that hip hop would not have happened without Kraftwerk. These 4 German, physicists, doctors. But the song Autobahn. I mean, they shortened it up into 3.5 minutes to make the little tiny hit that it was in 1975. But the original recording is like 23 minutes long. They keep revisiting the same theme. The same melody, the same chord structure. They come back and they look at it this way, and then let's look at it over here. Let's look at it right here. Let's look at it right here. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. There's a musical theme in there that da 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 da. It's revisited several times throughout that piece. In fact, if Beethoven had played it that way, that would have been a hit song. I'm thinking, with all the mistakes in it. One Direction does something similar. They do have a great sense of melody, and there's passion in it, and they revisit those themes in several ways in their songs. Sometimes it's just. I think our friend Mark Sanchez also spoke at the trade show on music programming. Sometimes it's, beat mixing is lovely, but sometimes it's the element of programming. This song could suck the life out of that one if you played them the wrong way.
Right.
It's kind of an energy arc. So One Direction, I'm very cautious because as much as they've got energy, they've also got a mellow quality to them. So if you play them in the wrong place, even though it would be a great song, this one could suck the life out of that One Direction song.
Right, right. Unless it's what I would call like a sing-along anthem, where it's like where they don't care about any of those elements. They like to sing along. They're participating in the song in a different way.
Well, Journey's "Don't Stop Believing" is not a danceable song, but boy, it's always a love fest on the dance floor.
Yeah,
Everybody's
right.
singing.
Exactly. Everybody's like fist pumping and like it's like they're in this total hope trance.
I'll even cut the sound sometimes and just let them sing on and
Right.
on and on, and then put the sound back on.
You guys keep going. I'm going to the bathroom. Oh, that's so great. So okay, so clearly some of these things are structural elements to music that we're reacting to, and some things are just like kind of in that unpredictability kind of how the brain works, or how a person is like liking one thing and not liking another, and formulating preferences and things like that. So let's talk about how this translates to knowing this. Now, your awareness of music on this level and the effect that these different structures and rhythms and things like that have on people. How do you translate that to this is how I'm going to DJ, or this is how I'm going to approach putting my songs together? Kind of what is the practical application?
Well, that's a tough question to answer in such a short format. For me, it's
you have 2 minutes. Go.
Well, here's what I've thought. We had our keynote speaker last year at the trade show was DJ Scribble.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he kind of mentioned, without being so overt as I'm going to say it, learn your music. Learn your music, learn your music. For him, he learned his music in his bedroom for years, and then suddenly the opportunity presented itself. He was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
We had the little kind of a fireside chat format with Chuck D and Keith Shockley over lunch, and something that Chuck D said, here's one of the godfathers of hip-hop.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you got 156,000 songs on your hard drive. Do you know your music? Keith Shockley said something similar. Learn your music, learn your music.
So what does that mean? Tell me, what does that mean to you, or to what are they speaking to when they're saying learn your music?
Well, that's what I thought, because I had struggled with my presentation for a long time. When a DJ can just put a bunch of songs in a playlist and hit play, and those computers are brilliant.
Yeah.
They can find the bridges and they can mix it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, does what I have to say matter in my presentation? Well, yeah, it does matter, because the computer's going to do it perfect. But the artist will surprise you. I still mix live. I don't let the computer pick the songs. I don't let the computer mix the songs for me. I do it for background music during cocktail hour and whatnot, but when I got my dance floor going, if I'm letting the computer pick, I'm not reading my crowd. I'm not feeling the moment. I'm not feeling what they feel. I think most DJs are listening know there's a kind of this moment in the night when the DJ and the crowd become one, and they're out there, they're singing along every word, they're hugging each other, they're getting into it, they're dancing, they send that energy to me, and I feel it, and I nurture it, and I dig down, and I send it back to them.
Mm-hmm.
They feel it, and they send it back to me, and we got this love fest going on. There's a communication that happens.
Yeah, well, I experienced that most profoundly, and when I worked in a nightclub, and they would the other DJs would talk about it like, when you have your floor hooked, you have them. Then they'll go wherever you want to go. Like they're on your ship. You can take them anywhere. So in the club, we would work them to get them so that they're just like, okay, DJ, I surrender. I'll go wherever you want to go. And then you could get them to dance to Disco Duck at that point and love it. Like, oh, he played Disco Duck. That's amazing. Sort of thing. And to create that. So when you say, getting back to knowing your music, now I'm kind of getting this on an intellectual level, what you're saying. So like, for example, like I know that if I'll get a certain response if I play I Got a Feeling. Lately, Happy has elicited a certain response from people, sort of thing. And what I would call like hook songs or recovery songs, like a line dance to me is always a great recovery song. I mean, yeah, I'm going to put them in there, but I know that it's like if I'm having a hard time throwing out hooks and people aren't responding, to try to get them so that they'll just be in the drift and playing and having that communication you talk about. I can put on Cupid Shuffle, and I know I'm going to get a group that's going to be like, oh, Cupid Shuffle, and they're going to run out there and do their thing. What is, when you say learn your music, is that what you're speaking? Or are you speaking of something deeper, or a deeper understanding of your song catalog or your choices or your music? I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Again, it's hard to answer in a short format, but it's over a period of time learning about pitch, timbre, rhythm, just your genres. Sometimes you can mix the same genre over a period of decades. I often mix Brick House from the 70s with Respect from the 60s, kind of in the same R&B genre, but they're, 12, 15 years apart, whatever they are.
Sure.
So just learning genres, learning what pitch and timbre are. Like you could recognize timbre is the ability that helps us distinguish between instruments. We know when we're hearing a clarinet. We know when we're hearing a piano, an organ. We know when we're hearing an electric guitar. We recognize Sting's voice. Even if it's a song we haven't heard, hey, that's Sting singing because of timbre.
Sure.
Because of timbre, we can sit in a restaurant and hear just the conversation we're trying to hear. Even though there's all this noise, because of timbre, we focus in on this one voice we're trying to hear. All the noise is still coming in, but our brain learns how to filter it out because of timbre. So just things about your music, learning how it starts and stops, what the energy level is, where the bridges are, what
sure,
where mix in and out. If you don't
where
want
it
to play
changes up, where you can come in and out, where the high energy points are and the low.
Yes.
And so just kind of knowing where, like if you and this would be, so an example would be like you're in the middle of a song. Let's say I'm in Jump Around and we're playing that and it's going and it's kind of repetitive and it doesn't really change. People like to jump, but then I'm seeing, okay, they look like they're getting tired of jumping around. Like they've kind of like had enough. Like they're kind of getting to that edge where they're sort of getting over it. And I want to keep the energy going, so I want to surprise them with something new. So then I need to know that song well enough to go, okay, where is my bridge coming in, or how can I get out of this in the next 30 seconds? Exactly.
I used to work at a dueling piano club for a little bit. As a Christian type, they were asking me to do things that I couldn't do in good conscience. There, I learned a lot about my craft, both piano and DJ, and it made me a better musician, a better performer. But that was just the thing. When the crowd was into it, let's let that song groove for 10, 12 minutes. But if a song's not working, you throw it over the edge. You just move on to the next thing. You just get to where the solo would have been and get your round of applause and go to the next song.
Right.
I think a DJ is going to know that when you're feeling your crowd, as opposed to letting the computer do it for you. When you're feeling your crowd and reading them, you know what? They've gotten all the energy they could possibly get out of this song. At this moment, I'm going to start losing the energy. Let's put some more energy in there by doing this next song. Just learn those places to mix in and out quickly.
That's great. That leads me to my next question in terms of reading a crowd, because to so many that could seem kind of esoteric. Like when it's working, wow, I'm reading them great, even though I don't really know what I'm doing to read them, So what are some things what do you look for as you're DJing? Like you just mentioned one of them where you're like, I'm starting to lose energy in this crowd. I need to inject more energy. So then you look for a song that's going to bring up the energy, something maybe with more intensity or more beats per minute.
Not necessarily beats per minute, because you can have a song that's, low energy with high BPM or vice versa. High energy like Crazy in Love, Beyonce is low beats per minute, but very high energy. So I do often go to a lower BPM. There was a guy that was at the performed in the DJ Beat Mix contest there at Hard Rock. That boy, he dropped down to half his BPM. But the whole song was so high energy, people just let out spontaneously in a big cheer because it surprised them. It was just the perfect compliment to what he was doing. It added energy, even though it was at half the BPM where he'd been.
Sure. So when you look for energy, if energy is not defined by beats per minute, how do you kind of define the energy of a song when you're going to determine like what's up? Like you gave a great example of Crazy in Love, which is a lower beats per minute, but it definitely has a lot more energy, or what I would call intensity. It has like more intensity to it for people.
Well, I hope the DJs spend some time practicing in their shop, in their garage, in their bedroom, whatever it is, just listening. I spend most of my day on Tuesdays listening to all the new music that comes out, and well, that's a hit song right there. Or listen to the energy. Okay, there's a perfect bridge right there. Boy, that sounds like this other song. Wonder if I can mix those two together. Spend some time practicing. Speaking of reading your crowd, I don't just read the crowd when it's time to start the dance. Probably late then. Cocktail hour, I'm interacting with people. If I can have the maitre d' allow me to release the tables, I can go and introduce myself to each table, either crack a joke or one trivia game and release them to go have their buffet.
Sure.
And I'm starting to read the crowd. Well, that's a hip-hop table right there. That's a classic rock table over there. So those first 2 or 3 songs after dinner, I hit it because I read the crowd. It's not just
so what tells you that that's a hip-hop table?
Maybe the trivia game that I use. Let's do a pop culture trivia question. All right. What's Paul McCartney's middle name? Oh, so if they jump on those kind of things, well, you turn out, Paul is his middle name. His first name's Francis, I think.
Okay.
Which would be crazy if the world's greatest rock star was named Francis.
Right.
But just sometimes you can ask questions, interact with people, because people they're interested in what I do, and if you're charming and witty and effervescent, and people want to come and talk to you, boy, the conversation often goes towards music. And I said, boy, I love that song where that guy. I saw these guys in concert once, and you know what? I'm going to play one of those songs for you. Oh, that'd be great. So you start reading the crowd well in advance, and then if you hit it those first 3 or 4 songs, even though you're playing something the young people don't like, or you're playing something the old people don't like, they say, that's really great. He's not just going to play Sinatra all night. Oh, that's really great. He's not just going to play Kesha all night. So it's kind of nice that if you read the crowd right, those first 2 or 3 songs out of the starting gate, you can really hit it hard.
That's great. What about like as you're going through your night? Is there a certain way that you want to? To give you an example, like when I was in the nightclub, they always wanted to build and then drop and then build and then drop and then build and then drop, like the energy, like all night long, to be able to have a sustained crowd so they don't tire them out and clear their floor. That was a club though, so we're recycling the floor, but not necessarily with different generations like it is at a wedding dance sort of thing. So do you have any kind of approach in terms of like kind of how you want your music to be like working and interacting with the crowd, other than just the hey, I've got them hooked, they're resonating with me, and now they'll follow me?
Well, my answer will be twofold.
Sure.
The key of a song, there's an opening note that we hold in our cue, and then we compare the rest of the song to that note. So this note right here, it goes into a cue and we hold it. And then we compare this to it. Oh, that's different than that one. It's got some tension. We go back to this one. So that's a key. It's held in a cue in our brain. The whole song is compared to it.
Oh, wow.
In a similar way, when you're building a set, the opening song is kind of held in the cue, and we compare the energy of each song to that opening song. And it's not beats per minute, it's not the speed of the song, it's not the volume level, certainly. It's just the energy level. There's an energy arc that goes upward and upward. And I think, again, most DJs should start to know how to feel it ethereally. You can just feel your crowd when you become one, when they trust you. And there's this place when you're building that arc, it's sometimes 20, 25, 30 minutes. We can't do no more.
Right.
Hit them with one more, and then release them. Go cut the cake. Do a slow dance. You got all these people dressed up. They got to love the occasion.
Right.
They got darling with them. A slow dance is not going to kill anybody.
So differentiate.
Cycle dance floor. Some people are going to go get a drink. Some of the husbands' wives come out and dance and rebuild the dance floor from there.
Okay, now this how does that? I'm not sure how that relates to the arc that you're referring to. So what are you building on the arc? That
Building
you're arcing
energy.
Upwards. Energy?
Building energy.
Okay, so building energy. So the goal is always to build, and take them to the peak, take them one step further, stretch them one step further, and then drop down and rebuild.
Slow dance, or go have an activity, toss the bouquet, cut the cake, whatever you're going to do.
Sure. And so in this arc and rebuild, is this like a rinse and repeat all night long? I mean, I know there's never. To qualify that, it's like there's not an I always do this in every situation, because it depends on lots of factors. But just as a game plan, you start with, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then I'll modify for the moment.
Grandma and Grandpa will go home probably after the cake, and then you've got a different crowd. You really do have, instead of 3 generations, you're down to 2, maybe even just 1 generation. Bride and groom and just their contemporaries. So it does change, but generally speaking, that upward arc and then release, upward arc and then release, upward arc, it does kind of work. We humans seem to respond to that. We can't go, work in 10 days without a break. We humans kind of need a break. And same thing with the set. You need a little, because what is this energy but by comparison to this? It has to have comparison. It has to have some dynamic.
Sure. That's brilliant. That is so useful. I mean, I could see like just thinking about the playlist that I have and the music selections that I make, and thinking about like, well, and it's really starting to get serious about the harmonic mixing, like looking at the key that things are in, and how much of an influence that key has, and how much of an impact that the key has in each song for the audience member. Really makes it worthwhile for someone to investigate and spend more time with not only understanding the bridges and where the dynamics of their song are, but also understanding what key things are in. As they're setting up, making their selections and setting up their sets, not just based on popularity, but also based on those elements and how people are going to respond to it. I could see how valuable that could be, and how much it could influence your work. I want to go to one of your dances now.
Well, I fear that people think, well, that's just too complicated. I don't want to think about all that. But if you spend some time listening to your music, there's a couple of books that I recommended. One called How Music Works by David Byrne, the guy from Talking Heads, and also one called This Is Your Brain on Music by Daniel Levitin. Both of those help you understand these things, and with a little bit of practice, they do become second nature. It's not like you have to sit there think about, okay, beats per minute, here's the rhythm structure, here's the chord structure, here's the key. It just becomes second nature.
It becomes more intuitive.
Do spend some time on it. It's valuable. It makes you one notch better.
Absolutely. And it makes you different. It makes you different. Somebody has a unique experience with you that's putting the music together than they did with the guy that they heard last Saturday, to where you stand out. You're different. That's fantastic. Curtis, thanks for the time. This is really brilliant. I feel like you've done such a good job in compressing this into our little short show. I'd love to have you back and talk more about like how you use this for your cocktail music and how you use this for different applications in schools and things like that, and really kind of explore more context specific. Will you come and play with me again?
I would count it a great honor. Thank you.
That's awesome. Curtis, thank you so much. Curtis Whipple, my guest. Thanks for tuning in to Mobile Music Thursday. This is us wrapping up for this week. Be sure to check out Wednesday Night Lighting Chat here on DJNTV. It's always a great show about all the latest in lighting technology, which has become the biggest booming add-on for DJs ever. Finally, DJs are actually getting paid for dance floor lighting and ambient lighting, and there's lots of possibilities. So you'll learn all about that on Wednesday Night Lighting Chat right here on DJNTV. Until next week, this is Jason Jones saying so long.